Cheers, everybody, and welcome to episode 31 of your favorite late night Friday night hashcast. It is Variables, and we are your hosts for Groli, Pedro, and Superior Buds. We've got a special guest tonight, Tanasi, but before we get to him, don't forget we are multicast streaming everywhere on X, on Twitch, and here, of course, on YouTube. If you're chatting along, make sure you jump in that live chat and throw your questions up for the panel and our guests tonight. After the show, you can find us anywhere streaming your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, until it shuts down, and just about anywhere else. Cheers, guys. How are we doing tonight?
Doing amazing. How are you guys?
Pretty good. I'm ready for a dab. I'm not going to lie.
Same here. It was a long week. I'm ready for more than one.
Tanasi, how is it on the other side of the hill? You got any weather over there?
Yeah, we actually got rain today, so we saw some moisture, which is rare for out here in these parts.
Agreed.
It's a pretty crazy weather day today. Everywhere across. Yeah, there was like 80 some tornadoes today.
Oh yeah, I was watching that in Nebraska. Nebraska got hit with just in the 20 minutes I was watching Ryan Hall on YouTube, it was like 25 tornado warnings or something.
Yeah, I just turned Ryan Hall off. Just went offline. I've had him online or streaming all day while I worked. Garlic punch today.
That looks juicy.
Check this out. Here's a tech I've been waiting to show. I got to get this filmed somehow, not somehow, some way, but I just got to get it filmed. I think about it every time it happens. But I'm cleaning out my blender, right? And I always get a little bit of alcohol in here, obviously, when I take it out of the thing. So I'm trying to get the alcohol out of there. So I stick a Q-tip up in there. So a lot of times that happens. And a lot of times what ends up happening is it's actually, like up in there so far that, so that you just can't get it. I had one of these laying on my desk one day. Just a standard zip tie, and I slid that bitch in there and popped it out. I was like, "Son of a bitch, dude!"
That works better than a pipe cleaner.
I was about to say, is a pipe cleaner, and I saw a zip tie, and I was like, "It's a little bit more firm, right?"
I was just looking on the desk one day, and I happened to have them sitting here, so now they're always going to be sitting here.
Well, I was going to say it's you can't really do that with like some of these style. Hangers, I guess, like with the slurpers and stuff, you got that opening at the bottom, but with something like that, I know this has got like the side openings for the auto spin or whatever, but if you could just like put your mouth over the top of that,
you could always
shoot that thing across the room.
You could always just stick it in the back door, push it the other way.
What I mean, whatever gets it out, dude. Got to declog somehow. I've actually had the same thing happen where I get the little balls, the terp pearls or whatever. I'll suck too hard, they get stuck up in the neck there, and it's like no, that's such a pain in the ass to get out.
Oh, man.
We could go down a couple roads there too if you'd like.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't hit my dab rig that hard.
No, I was talking about him sucking too hard over there.
Pedro says it's not like crack, and we don't need to hit it like that, but sometimes it just tastes so good. Okay.
Tanasi, what are you dabbing on tonight?
I've got some. I can never pronounce this one. You can help out with this one. Soleil Levant.
Soleil Levant.
Soleil Levant.
Soleil Levant. How do you like that?
I like Trop C better.
Yeah.
This one's second best to that one.
As that one progressed, matured, degraded.
Assy.
That's where I was like, I'm not sure that I'm more of a sweet fan, so that one didn't really hit my taste buds very much.
Yeah, I like the fruity stuff.
Yeah, that's
this is some gas for sure.
How do you spell it? I'm trying to look up the strain. I can't even.
It's sunrise in the west, but it's Soleil, Soliel, Levant, Levant.
I put in savant, and savant syndrome came up, and I'm like, we're just going down the wrong road.
Yeah, it's not a road.
Wrong rabbit hole.
Definitely wrong road. Yeah, Soleil Levant. It's I don't know what the lineage is. Again, I'm generally not too much of a remembering genetics, remembering the lineage. For whatever reason, it just doesn't, pinch my nipples. So I don't know.
I don't care where it came from. I care how it tastes.
I've
That would
got a metric label from Reddit I'm looking at right now. The subreddit is ARMMJ. I'm guessing is that Arkansas? They even have medical marijuana in Arkansas?
Do they?
Arizona, maybe? I don't know.
I mean,
In any
everything can
case,
be argued.
why is oh no? Because I'm not logged in. It just blurred it out on me. I can't read it because I'm under 18.
So hey, real quick before, because
it's here. I got it back.
No.
Muffins IOG Kush crossed with Muffin crossed with Gelato 33 times Ox. I don't know. That's a lot. Sorry.
I feel like we just jumped into this and nobody knows who the hell's sitting in this blue ass or purple ass or whatever the fuck color is, because I'm colorblind room. Tanasi Gardens is who the hell's sitting over here. Long time. I always call him Tanasi. Yeah, Tanasi, right?
Yeah.
We'll get into that. That's one of the first questions. But keep it short and sweet. Long-time member of the cannabis community. Long-time member of the cannabis community, at least as long as I have been involved with it, and has always been what I like to refer as a traveler. He's always been a friendly traveler and has come up with his own design, if you will. And man, this is going to get crazy interesting. And I bet you're probably going to get a couple sales from tonight, boy, on that website. But he's a Sacred 3 mushrooms is the road that Tanasi has went down. And essentially, I mean, I'm just going to let him get into that. It's because he can probably explain more of the intricacies tonight. More than likely, I mean, we always talk about cannabis, and we're probably going to smoke a bunch of cannabis, a bunch of rosin. But I would imagine that the road is going to get a little fungy as we go.
Fun guy. Yeah, a little bit backstory to me, man. Military vet, moved out to Colorado, discovered weed was legal in 2013.
Can I ask before you get too deep? You look like, I mean, I think it's the beautiful hair, but you look like you might be a little younger than everyone else on this channel. What time, like what era did you serve?
06, 09.
Okay, all right. So you're probably right the same age as I.
I'm 37. I look very young, but I'm 37.
You do. You could pass for 27. Sorry, keep going.
He's aged very well and has been very active.
Well. Maybe the mushrooms help. I don't know.
Yeah.
So weed out here in 2013 was legal and stuff, and I got back into that. Growing up, I was always the trippy hippie kid. The weed and acid, whatnot, and mushrooms. But back then, I'm a kid, and I never really understood it as a medicine or a tool or anything like that. Till I really came out to Colorado and smoking weed. That helped with my depression and whatnot. Then I could grow. I was like, well, what else can I do? I started really diving deep into plant medicines, like making DMT, then mushrooms, and then really exploring the depths of the psychonauts, right? Really pushing the boundaries, and I still do it today. But I saw the help I was getting from that. And sitting around with another army buddy, we're talking, and I was like, I'm going to start a mushroom grow kit. I want to teach people. I'm not going to supply you mushrooms. I want the Chinese proverbs. I want to teach a man to fish. I want to teach you to grow your own mushrooms in a small little shoebox kit. And now you can do whatever you want for the rest of your life. You can scale up whatever you need for your family or whatnot. But I wanted to give people that opportunity to kind of heal themselves. And if you were going down that path, and that's kind of the path I've taken with Sacred 3 mushrooms.
You have just opened so many doors and so many questions with such little amount of information, man. Holy smokes.
It is pretty cool because I did grew some mushrooms back in 95, 96, somewhere in there. And it was just lack of info, black garbage bag with some straw in a little mini greenhouse.
And that was like 95. So how would you even get the spores, right?
Right. Yeah, they got shipped, and that was the sketchiest shit ever. You get a syringe that's wrapped in 10 different packages, and it was just crazy. But it was fun. It was a fun little experiment, But then when I saw you come out with your kits, I was like, oh man, that's a whole other level. It's so much. It's more self-contained. It's just an easier system for someone to manage.
Right.
And I followed your journey when it was new, and watching the flushes you were cutting on these things. I'm like, holy shit, man.
And I've learned that the smaller the footprint is, like the shoebox is perfect, man. We're not finding a lot of contamination. And I think it's because of the small footprint.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Less air.
So it's working out well for everybody, and
seems pretty error or mistake proof. Or
it is. It's the hardest part is patience. Don't touch it. Do the steps at the right times. It takes maybe 5 minutes to do 2 steps, and the rest of the time you're just hands off. Don't touch it. I think people get when you start opening the tote a lot during the first few weeks of the stage, like when you put it into the tote, that's where you start like getting a lot of contaminations. It's just people touching it a lot.
So when I go, and I believe I looked for a little while, or looked for it earlier, www.sacred3mushrooms.com, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So when I go there, what can I expect to purchase?
So we have kits. So here's how we've kind of broken it up. You have sacred3mushrooms.com. That's where you're going to buy your kits, your grains, your manures like substrates. Then the second part of it is fruity spores. So in the beginning, we're having to jump through hoops out here. They're just now starting to allow some people accept payment processors where you're able to sell kits and genetics together. There's a very limited people that they're allowed to even, I don't know how they're even getting away with it right now, but so you have Sacred 3 mushrooms as your supplies and your kits. And then if you go to fruityspores.com, Fruity Spores is your genetics. And that's where you would pick your syringe of gourmets or whatever. I'm building that monthly. That changes and whatnot. So we've kind of kept it separate in those two things. Eventually, they might become one, or we just keep them separate. Because this is a new industry, and I mean, we've dealt with it with the CBD, you've dealt with it with the weed stuff. Like you're having to jump through these special hoops. It's easier to get payment processors for selling weapons
Yep.
than it is to get payment processors to legally sell things that the laws are changing for,
Yeah. We have a grocery store here just in the town round that's kind of this way, where half of it's, the hippie record, comics, and glass smoking pipes. And then next door is all the grow equipment, but everything has to be separate because of payment processors and banking. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, there's like these little hoops that you have to jump through to make it work, I guess.
So I'm looking at maybe on nearly 25 different strains on your website right now. Do you have a favorite one, and why is it that one?
All right, so Fruity Spores, yeah, there's probably about 25, 27 some different strains right now. I'm going to go with the ones that I've taken the most of. So I'm into doing like ceremonial doses with the mushrooms. And
what does that mean, ceremonial dose?
Like we're pushing 10 gram doses.
You have to start, but not of just, not 10 grams of every mushroom is every mushroom is the same.
I'll break it down my favorites for you right here, because there's different. We're having our mushrooms that are being tested too, so I know the potency levels of them when I'm eating 10 grams. So I can kind of guess what the milligram is that I'm eating of this psilocin and psilocybin. So, but to come back to like the favorites right now, so for my favorites, since I'm doing big doses, I don't really mess with micro doses. If you mess with micro doses, you probably want something on the lower end scale. But since I'm doing big doses, my favorites are going to be the more potent ones, because like the Melmax. Let's start with the Melmax. That's in the top 3 for me. It's the most potent that we're growing right now, and it's rated at like a 2.19% potency. And to kind of break that down, when I eat 10 grams of those, and if you were to equivocate that to like golden teachers, I eat about 30 or 40 grams of golden teachers eating 10 grams of these.
That's a significant difference.
So when you're trying to reach for maybe these higher realms, if you will, you're probably going to want to take a more potent mushroom, so you don't have to eat as much of it. But consuming it's all different as well. I want to go with Melmax though, and the Old Dirty Penis Envies are my top two right now because the Old
That's
Dirty.
a very common one. Well, okay, actually, let me correct that. I've heard of penis envy a lot around Michigan. What is Old Dirty Penis Envy, and why does it sound so much worse?
Right. It's actually just in isolation, and it's from. There's two different stories. There's stories that you hear people talk about a guy named Joshua in the mycology community that isolated it, and then you have stories of Julian, Old Dirty Julian. He's on Instagram that he created this, and it's basically they grew penis envies, and they were able to find one that he liked, and it kind of looks like the only way I can tell the difference is the cap are very deep. So when the cap breaks apart, the cap goes very deep, and it kind of looks like uncircumcised penis type stuff, old dirties, something like that. So I don't know. So it's a nice one. I like to give. So there's levels when you're doing these big doses and stuff. You don't want to give somebody 5 grams of golden teachers and they're just tripping balls. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here. So when I start people off, 5 grams, old dirties are my go-tos. Because I know 5 grams of some old dirty penis envies.
So wait, you're saying go higher, not lower?
Oh yes, I'll never eat 3 grams of mushrooms ever again, ever. I
Why?
never want to be.
This is confusing me and probably not, and probably everybody else. What do you mean?
There's okay. Think of it like a threshold. Like, you know how they design. You know how Alexander Shulgin remade MDMA basically, and it was kind of rediscovered in the 60s, 70s or something, maybe even earlier than that. But there was like somebody in 1918 who actually discovered MDMA, but he did not consume enough milligrams for it to be actually hit the threshold and actually works. He wrote it off as it didn't work. But then Alexander Shulgin came back around. He was going down making Pi Cow and Thai Cow. He remade the molecule MDMA, and he ate like 80 or 100 milligrams, and it actually worked. And it had to hit. He had to hit that threshold, right, for that to work. So when you come to psilocybin, to have this spiritual I call it a breakthrough dose, and it's spiritual, and when you hit it you'll know it, and I've never done it on anything less than 5 grams penis envies. That's the lowest I've gone, and there's a protocol. Like you can't eat it with a peanut butter sandwich, you can't eat it with a meal. Like there's a whole recipe that's involved for this to work.
Are you saying specifically that you won't do 3 grams?
Yeah, but you'll do more. Like that's what I was understanding.
I'll eat 10 grams over 3 grams.
What is
okay?
Yeah,
Pedro, let me frame it this
go
way. I think, and maybe I'm leading him on here, so I'm going to give you the opportunity, Tanasi, to really explain this. But my guess is that he's kind of looking at it like there's this fence, right? And on one side of this fence is the microdosing, and the microdosing does have an effect. We know it has an effect. We can kind of feel it, right? And there's a reason that people microdose, right? And then on the other side of this fence is that where you get into that kind of spiritual, heroic. I saw in chat, there's a lot of different terms for it, but like on that really heavy end of the dose, right? I think right here on the fence is that 3 gram, that 2.5 gram mark that he's talking about, where you don't have a good time, and I think you can not have a good time in the whole range of mushrooms, but I've been there on where you're just teetering on the fence. You're like, I can't take any more, but I shouldn't have taken this much, and
think of it this
maybe
way.
that's where
Here's the way I won't think of it. I don't think of it like that. I think of it as it's a medicine. I've learned a tool. This is a tool that I can. 3 grams is like taking a hammer and smashing my hand. Taking 7 grams
Why?
is like me taking that hammer and building a house. Like there's benefit. I don't get the benefit off 3 grams, and I don't want. I'm looking for more therapy and healing, and that's something not reached on a 3 gram dose.
But why are you comparing it to smashing your hand
Because
with a hammer?
I
Because I think building a house is a beautiful analogy for that heroic dose.
Exactly.
But
Building a
you're
house is
only getting
beautiful,
that
right?
beautiful analogy because you just broke your hand with a hammer at 3 grams. Why is it like breaking your hand? Why is 3 grams like that?
Because it's not beneficial to me. 3
But
grams
why?
isn't beneficial. Because that's where the benefit and the big doses are coming through it. I think you have to maybe see that to understand. So when you're taking your micro doses, I'm still putting that like it's almost like a band-aid. Sure, a micro dose is going to give you energy. You're going to get up. You're going to do stuff. I still think it's a band-aid if you're taking a micro dose for depression or for some type of PTSD and stuff. That's not. You got some traumas going on. You need micro dose isn't going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to put a band-aid on your shit for a minute, but maybe it'll open your eyes to say, hey, there's more beyond the microdose here, and there's levels to this stuff. And if you hit this
Absolutely.
threshold on an empty stomach, you're going to heal yourself and release and purge with like, and just have this opening, right? And just like see how you're living and redesign your life. And now how I'm saying there's a recipe and stuff. Okay, now you've taken the big dose and you've seen the light and you've seen how you're living. Now you go back to your life. You still have to put in this work, man. Or you're just going to fall right back into your same ruts. You're going to fall right back in the same shit you're doing, getting the same patterns. Like you have to also put in the work after this big dose. Now that you've kind of like, it showed you what kind of some bullshit you was doing, maybe you're not so happy with. Now you got to make the change. So it's like, so here's one. I deal with a lot of anger and smoke a shit ton of weed, right? I've been working on trying not to smoke dabs all day, every day, my last 4 big doses. And it wasn't until this last big dose that I actually really understood and can like, it's kind of getting shit under control, showing myself that I'm causing more damage to myself because I'm not getting high. So what's the point? I'm just like roasting my fucking throat and lungs out. So it's like, it's a battle within myself too, but it's something that I'm working on every time I go into these big doses.
So, but you definitely going in with intention, and I think that
Yep.
that's something a more experienced individual or someone that is going into it in the first place with intention might do. But what about the probably average listener, I'll even say, that probably has microdosed a few times, maybe even taken that gram or 2-gram dose or something back in high school or whatever. But what about those that have access to it now and are afraid? Maybe they're afraid to hit that 5-gram mark. And is there like a way to step up? Or do you think that you should just go from, maybe if you're already microdosing, straight into that heroic dose? And
Sounds like he's talking about Pedro.
how do you prepare yourself for that? Because clearly you want to do it with intention.
Right. I would say no less than 5, and it has to be a certain mushroom. There's that's why we're having test results, and I haven't narrowed down the exact milligram that we need to get in your body. But 5 grams of golden teachers isn't going to do it. You have to do 5 grams of penis envy's the lowest I've ever gone down on everything.
What do you know what milligram that is?
Golden teachers are less of a string.
Yeah. 1 point. Okay, so golden teachers are about 0.7 on the high end.
Oh wow.
If that.
Oh wow.
The old dirties are 1.5 ish, so about double that.
Wow.
Is that like milligrams per gram or something? What do we? What's the
milligrams per gram?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Damn, so it's not a whole lot of milligrams of psilocybin.
No, you're doing 100 grams, 150 milligrams of psilocybin. You're there.
Okay,
you are there.
So people
you asked me some more questions. I forget what you just asked.
Just like that, where I was just going there. So people that are afraid of their quote unquote, like you just said, you're there. So people that are afraid of going there, perhaps they have anxiety of going there. They've had past experiences with mushrooms that provokes anxiety. Even sitting here talking about it, provokes anxiety and whatnot. So what do you say to somebody like that? How do you approach that?
I think that's part of it. part of the process. I get scared every time I make that commitment because I usually do it within, I say I'm going to do it, I do it within 2 or 3 days of saying that. And for those 2 or 3 days, I'm scared, I'm nervous, all the way up until I get those in my body. But to prepare.
So the minute they go down your throat, you feel that's really.
Yeah, it's like
really
fucking pop gun at the cross country race.
how
You hear that gun, everything, all those nerves and shit go away, and you just go.
how long after you put the first one in your mouth are you there, quote unquote? I
Right.
like this there.
Let's start from the beginning. I'm gonna walk right through the
There
process.
we go. And let me get this out there. I've seen on some website or another, or perhaps an Instagram account, you've like documented every minute of
Right.
these experiences.
Awesome.
So I got my wife who keeps a journal and timestamps everything. So we have a breakdown, and it's pretty consecutive, all the way up to what you're feeling to the breakthrough. So to get there, it's a recipe. So say I'm going to do it. I don't do pills. I don't have no anti-anxieties. I literally just smoke weed. I don't have a horrible diet. I just eat meats and vegetables, whatever we're cooking on the grill. We don't eat out.
He does eat very good. I do know this a lot better
So I have
than
a
I do
very
even.
clean diet. And I think your diet, when you're going hard on these big doses, especially psychonaut status, everything, you are a vessel of you're a conductor of energy and a vessel of it. And when you hit these big doses, the more shit you got in your system, the shit where your receptors firing, everything's working on your digestive system. It makes the energy that flows through you more intense or not. And I think of playing a role in that. So say I'm going to do my dose. I got 3 days I'm going to do it. The day before, 24 hours before I consume, I'm going to start fasting. I do a 24-hour fast, nothing but water. And you have your intentions the whole time you're doing this. I'll sit down, I'll work on breathing. Deep breaths in your nose, out your mouth, and focus on breathe. Like just sit down for like 2 minutes and just focus on deep breaths. Because when you're in these big doses, your breathing is your best savior. When you get scared, when your soul is trembling, you deep breaths. Go to your breathing work. Breath work is your best friend when you're in these things. So the day before, and I actually do this like if you're thinking about doing a trip, do this like months, weeks before. Just sit down and start working on your breathing because we don't have to ever sit there and take like really deep breaths, right?
Not nearly enough. After I listen to Wim Hof, it's like, oh, I suck at breathing.
Right. And then in these doses, maybe you maybe you didn't need enough, or maybe it doesn't allow you to actually purge up liquids or anything. But you taking deep breaths in and out, you're purging with your breaths. Your words in the room don't echo. Your breathing echoes, and you can feel it cleansing your body and breathing out all this negative and positive coming in, and just like you're pushing out some energy, and it's fucking beautiful. So 24 hours before we're fasting, then think about your intentions and whatnot. Then I've been doing them in the mornings is what I've been going to. Maybe I'll try some at night. It's kind of whatever your cycle is, I guess, whatever.
How early in the morning? Like, are you eating breakfast? Are you, because you're
All on
fasting,
empty
right?
stomach. So
Okay.
I try to do it because I'm doing 24-hour fast. I'll try to make breakfast my last meal. Go the whole day. You sleep. That way you got sleeping, and I can actually sleep on an empty stomach, and then wake up in the morning about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, take them. Now, you don't want to, all you're doing is water for this 24 hours. Your digestive system is clean. You're going to consume your 5-10 gram dose. I'm thinking teas might be best, but eating them works just as fine. I think there's different little levels in there of consumption that gets in how your digestive system works. But eating 5 grams of old dirty penis envies, and then I lay in the bed or so you have to do this whatever gram of mushrooms you're going to eat, you need to have them down in like 15-20 minutes. In 15, 20 minutes, you need to be making your way to the bedroom where you've got a 5-gallon bucket with a trash bag. You've got your water with a straw. And I've got shamanic beats that like a playlist that everybody can download and play. It's a 4-hour playlist that you would turn on. I have usually a shirt wrapped around my head to block out the light. And then you just lay up in the bed with a blanket. And about 35, 40 minutes, like that's when everything starts really happening. And it's like I'm in a spaceship, dude. I get cold as shit, and I'm just fucking. My freaking teeth are chattering, like freaking. I can't get warm at all. I'm just freezing.
That's like nerves, right? Because it's not like a flu-like system or symptom where you're like,
I think it's part of the
like,
breakthrough. Because once you break through, like you feel that like in a spaceship, and then you like.
It's like an energy, right? It's just like it's almost like
I think that's
your
what it is,
fingers
like a
drank
vibration.
a Red Bull and your kneecaps drank a Monster and like your elbows drank like a rock star. You're like, what?
It's like a vibration. Yeah, you're like really picking up on some shit. And then you just like break through, and then every one of them's been different. I've done 5, 7, and 10s. I've done 10s the most. I think 10s is where I like to keep it, where I can really get a lot of work done. I used to think that there was a limit to where there was therapeutic doses around 5 to 8 grams, and I was thinking 10 plus was like exploration. But I've had a 10-gram dose where it was very therapeutic. A lot of healing got done in that one. That's the one where I basically was able. I smoke half the many dabs as I used to.
Is
Let's
there
not forget the exploration dose because we want to talk about that too after we dig deeper into what we're talking about now. Go ahead.
and is there a tolerance to this? Like if somebody goes in their very first time versus somebody that goes in their,
Great
200th
question.
time?
No. I mean, if you did it like every Friday and ate 10 grams, you're going to go to the place every time. But if you're eating 3 grams every day, that's not going to be the same 3 grams every day at all.
You're going to be teetering on the fence like, I don't know which way to go. Oh boy.
I think there's a misconception about people like body weight. I don't think people's body weights play in a role in this at all. I think it all is like chemistry, your makeup, how your neurons are firing, the shit in your system. I think it's all playing a part in that. It's more of your chemical makeup.
That's very interesting, because I've heard we've had so many discussions about this, but my very first experience, and to get it out there, I am the nervous run here. We were definitely speaking about me. My very first experience was on Halloween. I think I was 17 years old, and we didn't go through the ceremonial stuff like he did, but I had no knowledge of anything. So I bought a half ounce. I bought 14 grams of mushrooms, and I found a buddy, and we both ate 7 grams of mushrooms, and walking outside, to keep everything short, every character was real life. Like if it was Yoda, it was Yoda. If it was a dragon, it was a dragon. But I didn't have a bad time. And ever since then, I've never done that big of a dose again. And ever since then, I've always had more anxiety experiences or just not great experiences.
On the lower end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. I've only done 7 grams once, and that was my very first time.
See, doing 7 grams in the bed, taking away your sight. Because I think, so if you take 7 grams and you go to the concert, yeah, you can walk around the concert. It's not going to be anywhere near the same one if you did it in the bed. Because you're being distracted by sound, sight, everything, people moving around. Like there's a lot of distractions that's taken away from what's really going on. And there's taboo we have to break, right? This mushroom game and everything that's same with acid is kind of like taboo with all the propaganda and stuff everybody's been fed growing up. And also like people who have taken this, like I'm saying, it's a tool, right? Like you've taken the wrong dose in the wrong spot, and now you're traumatized to the point where you won't ever do it again. And it's like, well, if you did it right or did it differently, it would not be traumatizing to you as the way it, people just have misused it, you know.
That's it's always the lack of intention, man. And I did the same thing to myself. The first time I ever tried mushrooms, it was with the guy that I smoked out for his first time. Like he tried weed for the first time ever with me, and all of a sudden he was offering me mushrooms and going to Burning Man and shit. It's like, all right, dude, chill out, man. I'm just trying to smoke some weed, okay? But I had a good experience the first time. It was just a good experience. And then like the second or third time, I did it with zero intention whatsoever, and I was just like, I wonder how many caps I can eat, and it was just like, well, where's my mom? It's not a good experience.
Yeah. That's how my first time was. I don't say this out of any experience, because shit, when I'm 16, dude, I didn't know you couldn't die. I was fucking just laying up in bed like,
Right.
I'm gonna die, dude.
Exactly. Watching the freaking curtains melt. Like, what have I done? This is never gonna end. Oh, come on. It's like, yeah. But and that experience did, quote unquote traumatize me. I didn't touch mushrooms for a long time, and I started growing cannabis either right around that time, maybe before or after, but and I kind of just stuck with that for a long time. Now, I think it's again a great tool. It's one of those things that you have on your tool belt that when it's time to take that medicine, it's a great tool to have. It's just it's one of those things, man. Like a lot of people call it a sacred fungi because it's like it knows your intention. It really feels like it just knows your intention, and it's because it's working with you. It's working with your brain, and if you don't want to work with it, you're just not going to have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, not all the big ones aren't pleasant either, bro. Most of my big ones end with me crying and shit. Like it's not. They're brutal beatdowns. They're not pleasant whatsoever. But I feel like it's 10 years of therapy in fucking 4 hours.
Is that how long they're lasting? Only 4 hours for you?
Yeah. So if you 5 gram dose, you don't puke, you'll be back talking to me in 3.5 hours.
And if you do puke,
Same, about 3.5. I've seen it. If you ate like a 10 gram dose of Melmax and didn't puke, you're likely to go for 5.
What's with the puking? What's that?
Your body actually didn't consume everything. That's why I was saying earlier, maybe do some teas. If you're going to try a 10 grammer, my next 10 grammer, I'll do a tea. Because
it makes you purge, or what?
I actually did purge on my last 10 one, my first time ever actually puking.
Do you prefer to puke?
Have some Tums ready. Have some type of antacid ready if you do, because my throat was on fire the last time. But I wish I didn't puke because I don't think I went as far as I could have. Although it was one of my strongest doses.
Puking on an empty stomach too. I have to imagine that probably contributes a little bit to that, like more.
It was all mushrooms and water
and acid.
I drink a good amount of water.
Stomach acid.
Yep.
I drink a good amount of water when I'm eating the mushrooms. I'm not shy with getting water down because that's how you kind of get a big 10 gram down, kind of like a little nibble, and you can kind of swish it around your saliva, and your saliva kind of capsulizes it, and you can kind of swish it back and take a little swig of water and swallow it like a pill. And just do that over and over, and you're not really like chewing up a whole bunch of mushrooms.
Yeah, it's not the most pleasant thing to just nom on. You know what I mean? Like most people aren't enjoying that texture.
So what about like post processing? Different ways to take them. You said teas already. What else?
That's my go-tos is raw dog it, just nibble it up, right? Or just we'll grind it up in a grinder and make a tea real quick. But you
Is that
don't
all
want
it
to put-
takes? Is just like grind it up, or and or like a food processor or a grinder, and then throw it in a tea bag and steep it?
Yeah,
I
are
mean,
you steeping it or are you still eating the chunks?
So let me give you two methods here, then we'll go into detail here.
excellent.
So the go-to is like a little mason jar, little Cuisinart coffee grinder, grind them up, throw them in here in your mason jar. Then I'm going to take a cup of liquid, right? What I'm going to consume, if a bunch of people are involved, we're going to get like a good cup like that, right? And then add 10% per person that's going to be involved in your tea.
Okay.
Then put in some lemons, some ginger, or just a lemon ginger tea bag or something. Put in your hot water by measuring out in your cup first, right? And then pouring it in. So everybody's got about a cup. Then put your lid on it, mason jar, and you're going to sit here and swirl it around and just let it sit there for about 10 minutes. Everybody sit here and talk about intentions, whatnot. If you're alone, you're going to do it. Intentions, and then 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and strain everything. I'm not really picky about the biomass, the plant or fungus. Go ahead and strain it with a cheese cloth or something. I'll just usually get rid of the pulp and then split it up the tea, or just take the tea like that. Now that's the way I have been doing it for a very, very long time. That works just as well. But with our test results that we're doing with the lab downtown, we're showing that first, when you pick the mushroom, it immediately starts, the psilocybin starts degrading into psilocin.
Oxidation, I bet.
Same as your body does THC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your body does the same thing with psilocybin, psilocin. And the actual water in the mushroom does it fast first. Then, once the water's gone, it's the heat that's applied to it that starts degrading these compounds. So, when I say use a hot water to make that tea, I've been doing a lot of looking and researching and finding out that the blue juice, people used to make blue juice back in the old, like ancient times as well, and it's using cold water. And there might be also a way that you can extract the compounds, doing kind of basically what you are doing with Pedro with rosin, by taking a
pressing.
cold ice bath of the mushrooms, and then the water just turns super blue, and then basically consume the blue water. But what can we do with that blue
I
water?
think
some
cold brew
reason-
coffee.
For some reason, that seems much more enticing to me. I like blue
Yeah.
raspberry. I'm down with
It
that.
looks like some blue raspberry, but I'm sure it don't taste like it.
Yeah.
Being cold, especially being cold, I don't know how this would taste. But if you do that, especially with the fresh mushroom, you have now preserved the compounds pretty much as possible, as potent as possible.
Now,
Right?
Abolish says it doesn't store well, though. So, is there
Oh
a
yeah,
trick
you're
there?
gonna have to consume this immediately.
Okay.
And only thing, unless here's what I'm thinking: what happens if I put a whole freeze dried tray of blue juice in there? What comes out?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I
that's
haven't-
interesting.
We're talking concentrates now.
Mm-hmm.
Now I
Now
can
you're
start
getting-
dosing out my 150 milligrams, the more we kind of,
I'm thinking
less
there
I have
could
to
be.
chew.
Everybody in the tech world is doing ether, right? Or is it ethanol? Ethanol, excuse me. They're using ethanol to do their extractions. But that's the BHO compound way, right? Not like
Well, that's I was going to ask. Do hydrocarbons work? Because ethanol is more like your RSO method, if you will, whereas BHO is, closed loop system, probably talking super cold temperatures, but flooding it, turning it into a liquid, not necessarily worrying about like structural mass or anything like that. Just extracting the compound with a chemical that's, what's the term I'm looking for? Soluble, that would match the solubility of it. So but is it? I don't know, because all I'm thinking here with the last 5 minutes is stuffing my column full of mushrooms, and can we make it? I don't know necessarily
Right.
dabbable, but an extract. An extract of it. I don't necessarily want to dab this. I don't know if that's safe. I have no freaking clue, but. Pedro, don't look at me like that. Listen, I know I'm curious too, but I'm not going to be the first to try
Dude, for some reason,
Instagram.
that could be a bad road to go down. For some reason, anything you start talking about dabbing, I'm like, well,
You could do it with lavender, so why not psilocybin? I don't know.
There's a guy I think it's doing it. If you look up TDM extracts, I'm not seeing it no more. But he ran, I think he used BHO, if I'm not mistaken. But he made psilocybin slab, like it looked like shatter.
Help us understand as well, because I feel like we're walking a fine line. What is, and you're not an expert, you're not a lawyer, blah 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 blah. So feel free to
I
say.
know it pretty damn well though. Shoot.
So feel free to say you don't know, but where are we? What is the legality of this? Where are we? What's
So legality wise, you can't distribute, you can't sell mushrooms to your friends or anything, but I can give you mushrooms all day long.
but basically the
grow
same
them?
same as cannabis here
Yeah.
in Colorado, it's within
Same
state.
Michigan, pretty much.
So now we're within state lines. Or keep going.
So you can possess it and grow it. That's where the growing laws are still being like designed, I guess. They put out a few of them. Has to be in like a 12 by 12 area. When it comes down to extracts, it can't have a flash point of like 100 degrees or something like that. So that's why I think people are using also ethanol. I think it has maybe a low flash point. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can do whatever you want as long as you're not.
So what about, so that is that statewide, every state?
Just us, Colorado, and I think.
Okay, so that's where I was at with everything.
I think California, Oregon are as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a couple others, but
Yeah.
And that's
So
kind of where I was trying to clear up for.
Oregon, California, and us. On
and then you've
mushroom.
got some areas that are decriminalized.
Right.
like
So
cannabis.
everything's coming online.
So is it that it's legal, or is it just that it's decriminalized, or they're just turning their heads, or what is it?
I haven't been pulled over with a bag of mushrooms. So I'm pretty
Well,
sure
I mean-
they're not allowed to use any taxpayer money to prosecute me for that bag of mushrooms.
So it's basically just decriminalized. They're just, it's not legal. It's in a limbo. It's not legal. It's not illegal.
The limbo stages, I do believe.
Okay.
Because I think they're just now about to start releasing facilitator licenses.
Okay.
They're about to be released like probably this year, where you could actually own a facility where people come and you just I don't know if it's going to be a dispensary style, but I think what there sounds like is they're going to mock up the ketamine stuff. So at the psychedelic show that we had last year, fuck, if you want to see the whole 180 of this shit, right? Where you've got, it's not just fucking your dopers and your smokers in the streets talking about this. You got fucking lawyers, doctors, fucking all these PhD professions coming to the booth asking about this and stuff. So what I see happening is that they've already got the ketamine clinics in place, right? You can pay $6,000, $5,000 to go do these 6 sessions of ketamine, and they have a whole little fucking thing recipe, right? Now I think they're just going to start adding compounds to that list of things to choose, right? So now mushrooms will probably, I guess the MDMA is probably the next thing they're going to do. So
I think they are. Don't they already have that in Denver?
it's pretty much legal at this point. So they've already passed all their testing. It's pretty much going live. So they'll probably the next thing. They'll have a little fucking, it's going to be this long of a session, have a recipe for that. And then they'll have psilocybin comes up. But here's what we come into play, right? It's like, sure, if you got 5-6K laying around, sure, go facilitate and let them do their thing, and you'll feel safe and it's fucking perfect, right? Or you fucking can do a kit, grow your own mushrooms, right? And then facilitate yourself, listen to people like us talk, have these long session talks about this is what we're doing, this is what we're experiencing. And maybe you're ballsy enough to just go out and do it by yourself. But that's scary as fuck, dude. It's
That's what
not
I was going to ask. So what if
scary as
somebody
shit.
what if
That's
somebody
scary.
buys it and they grow some penis envy and they're like, okay, Tanasi said 10 grams. They eat 10 grams. They go to their bedroom with a 5-gallon bucket in the bag, and that's it.
Well, that's scary as fuck. You're going to
Okay.
make it through it. You're going to make it. Just don't go outside. Just don't go outside.
I think
Man.
just to be inclusive with that, the last time we had talked about going outside in the in nature.
Well, right, but I mean, don't be going around trying to walk down. I've had people try to walk downtown in the streets on 8 grams of mushrooms. And it's like, bro,
outside's
you're
not the
going to go
same
to
for
jail.
everybody.
Like, everybody's going to call the cops as soon as you open your mouth.
Okay, you're just not going to be speaking, or
you're not going to be speaking English.
Oh.
Oh, you
Okay.
could be speaking English, but just for safety, here's what I say, right? Like how there's going to be certain people, yeah, you're probably experienced enough, you're ready to maybe try this shit. You can do it in your bed. 5 grams is fucking easy peasy. You'll make it through it. But say like you, right, Pedro? Not everybody wants to do that, and they want to feel safe. Like I just gave our buddy Keith one a month or so ago. And it's like I'll come to a buddy, and help facilitate for you and like guide you. Like, okay, this is what you're gonna do, and kind of just answer questions because you can still talk during these big doses. You can still listen to me and hear things. You're not completely incoherent, comatose.
But if we're doing them, so I'm assuming that what you were just referring to there is you guiding someone, but not taking it yourself.
Correct. I won't go. So I haven't always had a trip sitter, but since we've been married and everything, she is the trip sitter. So this could be somebody who's never even taken mushrooms to watch you. It doesn't have to be anybody that's done a lot, but I mean, I'm here for questions all the time, but like if you were to ask me questions, I could answer things a lot more better than probably some other people. But you're kind of on it on your own, It's you, the darkness, and the mushroom. The outside person is just there to facilitate, help you get to the bathroom, help you puke into the bucket, give you water,
block the outside door.
Yeah. Keep
I was
things
gonna say,
safe.
it seems like it should be someone you trust and someone that you're, familiar with, and that you don't feel like is going to add to some sort of negativity to the experience. You know what I mean? So it's more
Or
than
judge you.
trust. And that's a big part of it, right? And so that's why I think someone that is experienced with at least some form of psychedelics is probably a better option than someone that's not, especially if that person maybe is not comfortable with psychedelics, even if maybe it's the closest person to you. That might not be the right person. I don't really know how to say this other than like,
I think it's all persons. Like my wife doesn't. She'll take a micro dose. She won't take no big dose.
but she's not like anti like psychedelics or something.
No,
You know what I
not
mean? So
that. Yeah, you should have somebody who's on board with what's going on.
yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Because
things do
you want to
get
be
weird.
comfortable.
Things get weird. Like how you just said, maybe a little embarrassing or something, but it's like it does get personal and emotional, and I think that's good. So you shouldn't be ashamed to, let it out.
When you say being there, taking this, let's call it a heroic dose, right? I guess it would be the 10 plus. Am I here? Am I coherent? Or am I literally, are we talking alien shit? Like, am I traveling across the cosmos?
You would have to do more than 10 for sure. So 10 below, let's keep it around there. 10 below, even on the strongest mushroom, you're still able to look up and look around. Maybe 8 to 10 grams, depending on the mushroom. I wasn't able to have a conversation with my buddy, right? But he understood when I meant like thumbs up. Like everything was okay.
You're still on the planet. Yeah.
Right. He was still able to communicate in a sense, but you're not comatose where you can be. Like if you're going 15, 20 grams on a mushroom that's like 2%, and you're keeping that down in the tea or something, you're not puking, like you're probably doing some Kalindi stuff and like leaving body and going with some other flavor.
So that's what, like 500 milligrams of psilocybin, or,
Nope,
is, or
you're keeping it around 200, 250.
oh, that's it.
milligrams. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. I thought the 5-gram dose was a conversion, or maybe the 10-gram dose was
10
a
gram, I
conversion
was
to about
still only
150 milligrams.
consuming 219 milligrams. of the
Okay.
10.
Okay. So 250 plus, maybe then we're kind of
So
getting
I'm
into
thinking
that range.
if you get that 250, 300, I think you're really starting. That's where you start to really break away from body.
I got to be honest, Tanasi, I'm an extract guy, so I do think in milligrams a lot of the time, and
That's good. That's good.
yeah, and I'm comfortable with figuring out that kind of dose. You know what I mean? I do it with terpenes. I do it with obviously THC and other cannabinoids.
Okay, so
and
here's the trick to this, because I've always thought this, right? Extracts is the same. I love extracts, bro. It's the fucking way. Because why? I don't want you to see that what I just saw, but how are you supposed to eat 10 grams of these mushrooms? And you
It's a lot of chewing, bro.
This person gags on like 10, right? So if we can do the extracts, but here's what I think is one problem that we're having issues with. Well, everybody's doing their own fucking thing, right? And I'm just watching. And I do what I do, but it's the stabilization of it. Something about psilocin, especially, and I want to say psilocybin also, when it is extracted from the biomass, there's no way to preserve it or keep it from degrading or
So
basically
give me the science. So psilocybin degrades into psilocin.
Yes.
And psilocin doesn't have what, the psychoactive or maybe the
They're both
active ingredients?
psychoactive. They're both psychoactive. And from what the research, from the testing and me eating them, you're always going to have higher psilocybin than psilocin on the test results.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken mushrooms with a 5 times percent psilocin than normal because I've added heat to it to cause that to happen.
Okay.
Those mushrooms with a higher psilocin content will hit you faster and harder.
But shorter, or no?
It does make the trip shorter, but it hits you far harder and faster. It's kind of like your body now no longer has to decarboxylate it.
Yes.
It's now readily available.
Okay.
So I think, but here's the thing though, I don't know when we're doing these trips, right? I think it's going to be a ratio compound. You want this much psilocybin, you're going to want this much psilocin, and you're going to be playing with these things. And I think that's going to change your trips. I think that's when people eat different mushrooms and they're like, oh, I had a great time on these, or I had a horrible time on these. I think that's your body chemistry playing with the ratios of those compounds in that mushroom.
You just reminded me that I've got some some CBD here sitting in front of me that I'm also gonna put on this dab I'm about to take.
Right. And talking about ratios, it's like people will mix different strains of, or flavors of dabs. We're talking about degradation, and I'm thinking a lot of comparisons between, well, initially it wasn't this, but now I'm thinking THCA converting to THC, right? But now we're also talking THC converting into CBN, which is a whole different kind of psychoactive effect. THCA is not psychoactive, so I don't know how it's more to me feels like the conversion of THC to CBN, and in that we've discussed a lot on how it's maybe like a degradation, right? So if we're comparing psilocybin into psilocin, but CBN just more or less makes you sleepy, whereas psilocin is hitting you quicker with the same effects, so it's it is still different, but it's applying heat though, like you said.
We're just talking about 2 compounds, right? They still got neurobaeocystin and baeocystin and like these. They're testing for like maybe 4 or 5, and that's not as they haven't even found them all.
Yeah, it's
They
not,
found,
dude. Yeah.
there's a lab in Germany called Miralux. They just found terpenes, so they broke down a terpene profile on mushrooms, and they've got that listed some on their websites, which is pretty cool.
Try to pull it up.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Just more similarities.
Miralux on Instagram, or I don't know if they have the website. Might just be Instagram.
No, they do have a website. It's probably going to take me a little bit to dig through that. Now I'm in the forums. Okay.
Miraculix lab.
CLUX? Miraclux?
Miraculix. I don't know how far down it'd be on the
Miraculix-lab.de.
I don't know how far down it'd be, but that was pretty interesting. They're doing some great stuff out of their labs, and they're the ones. I think I was reading something that they did a water extraction.
Okay.
It was either them or these people in California. Mm-hmm.
You got any I always love getting perspectives on, I believe the show is The Last of Us, or the book, or the whatever, the series, right?
That's the Pedro show with the cordyceps.
Yeah, the cordyceps mushrooms that kind of takes over, makes a zombie. Do you think that's possible? Do we have to worry about that? Is fungi gonna be the death of humans?
If there's a bunch of little Faucis out there in their basement right now, we might be able to.
Oh no, you're probably not wrong. But hey, that's how we got hybrids. Like, I don't know. I probably shouldn't name any strains.
I do like that show though. That show's pretty sweet.
I had a lot of fun with it. I'm disappointed there, it was like a one and done kind of series, whatever. Oh, it's a video game. That's what it is, not a book, right? Or maybe it was a book to start. Everything seems like it starts off as a book, but
yeah, it's weird nowadays how they are basing movies off video games.
Fallout. I'm like halfway through that. That's pretty good.
We haven't started yet. We've got it in the queue.
It's pretty good. So are you do you
real quick? Go ahead.
Do you consider yourself nice. I love it, dude. That thing's beautiful. Do you consider yourself like a mushroom hunter on the non-psychoactive side? I'd love to hear a little bit about that if you do, because I had some friends in college, and I tell you what, I didn't know a whole lot about fungi, through high school or anything like that. But I got to college and made some friends real quick. And every once in a while, they would just take a evening trip out to the woods and go look for mushrooms. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Is this some sort of weird thing that I'm like totally unfamiliar with? And it is. There's a lot of people doing this. Do you do that? Do you hunt for mushrooms?
I don't. So actually, if I go hunting,
he's like, why would I? Can grow in my closet. What are we talking about?
The only 2 mushrooms I do know from the wild are the Amanita, which everybody knows the Amanita, right? And then the Bolita, which is actually, I found that's the new mushroom emoji on some people's phones. That mushroom. That's the only 2 I really know in the wild, and I'm too scared to even try anything.
Okay, same here.
If I was like in a cow field, like I could pick out a psilocybin one, another patty. Yeah, we can do that all day. But I'm not going to go
along some riverbank, and I think it's it must be a cultural thing that like you grow up doing it, so you're comfortable doing it. I had a good friend of mine. His wife is from Europe, and they just grew up doing that. And we took this like tubing trip down a river one time, and she came home with like a 2-gallon bag full of mushrooms. Like I'm like, all right, like cool. That's I don't know.
There's a lot of people up here that way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good bridge to cross. Like, I guess it's a good stamp to put on things. It's not just any mushroom, right? Like there can be some seriously dangerous mushrooms. Like don't just go pick shit and eat it. I mean,
Right.
to your own
That's why
discretion, but
I would only do it if I was with somebody who actually knew what was going on.
Yes.
I don't even trust
I'm
Google
still only
Lens to give me
eating
the
it
right.
after I see him eat it, right? I don't know if I would actually. I don't go picking no wild mushrooms. That's wild. That's crazy.
But it's free food. I mean, it's if you can, it's like licking frogs. I don't know. That seems like the shiniest and most pretty ones are the ones you want to stay
Not
away
even
from.
morels.
I mean,
Yes, you
it's
can pick
again,
that
it's a
one.
popular.
I mean, everyone's picking morels right now up here.
Nobody knows anyone that died from eating mushrooms. OG Nugs says, Google it. 20 people have died worldwide in 30 years. So I actually I believe that, but the bad trips that people have had, whether that be a couple days in the hospital just doing nothing but vomiting and expelling things from your body. I don't know.
so I mean, then technically,
risky.
I mean, if I can ingest it, I mean, walk down these possible roads, right? If you can ingest it, I can ingest 50,000 milligrams of psilocybin.
I think it's 32 pounds.
But I mean, if I was to just a tea or extract or what is that going to do to someone?
Like the LD,
but it's not going to kill you.
Looking for an LD 50 or something like.
I don't know. I'm just asking. It's like if we're talking that nobody knows anyone. Blah 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 blah.
I love this chart. Well, here we go. Red Sutter's got one for you. My cousin went in a 9-day coma and lost his liver from someone selling him a porky forage mushrooms when he was 14. I was 12.
Damn.
He almost died without the new liver. So,
But
and then followed up by nope, no one dies. So I don't know.
That's the worst case scenario.
So there's no too much.
When you're doing psilocybin mushrooms, there is no too much.
Wow.
You can't die.
I think there is. Isn't there an LD50?
You can die from hurting yourself, right? But you can't die from consuming these mushrooms. Okay. Now that's what we just said. No, okay, we didn't think about this person's been taking 100 milligrams of SSRIs every day for 10 years. Okay. We need to start working about maybe weaning yourself off these SSRIs or something, because SSRIs and psychedelics don't mix. If you're trying to trip, your SSRIs aren't going to allow you. You're basically going to get blocked. And so when you're trying to do these big doses, I don't know how that's going to play a role in that. And a couple of other, like schizophrenics, things like illnesses and conditions like that. We don't know. I don't have any friends that are doing what we're doing that have those conditions, right? So some things people might not want to ever try an 8-gram dose or something. That might not be wise. But from all my big doses, man, every time I'm there, the scene from The Green Mile where John Coffey comes back from that old lady, the cancer patient, where he has sucked out the illness, and he's back in his cell, and he opens up his mouth and and breathes out all.
He's breathing out a lot of fire, I'm guessing.
He's breathing out a lot of negative energy right there.
Right.
It's a long ass breath. There he is.
And so when my body is releasing out all that, I forget where I was going with this. Shit.
Breathing out negative energy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
LD50s.
Yeah, I forget where I was going.
Well, let us know if it comes back, because I got the I love this chart, guys. This is the lethal doses of 55 substances. Speaking of LD50s, so let's start with water. And you're gonna have to do the math on your own body weight, right? So basically, this means for every kilogram of body weight you are, it would take 90 grams of water to kill you. So if you were 100 kilograms, it would take you like I doing this right? Like 9,000 kilograms or 9,000 grams of water. Let's just move along the table though. Sucrose, table sugar, MSG, stevia, petrol. I guess it takes more vitamin C or more gasoline to kill you than vitamin C.
Is this in any order?
It is. So this is the least lethal, least toxic up here, starting with water, and we're going to get more toxic as we go, going all the way from 100,000 milligrams per kilogram down to literally nanograms per kilogram. So keep going. Another ethanol. There's your ethanol. It's table salt. THC. All right. So THC 1.27 grams per kilogram. So let's try to do some math real quick. What is the average person like?
150.
150 pounds. So 150 pounds is let's give or take 68 kilograms. So if we're let's pull up the calculator here. So if we're 68 kilograms, we multiply that 1.27 grams. We're talking 86 grams. Is that right? Yeah, 86 grams. Or if we're talking milligrams,
8,600.
Oh no, a lot more than that. 86 grams is 86,000 milligrams.
Yeah, right. 86,000.
Yeah. So that's a lot of edibles. You know what I mean? Like a lot.
You can't even consume that.
Yeah, no, that's like almost 900, 100 milligram doses. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, I regularly consume in like 1,000, maybe 2,000 in a day is where I've ever been.
Now do that 50 times in one day,
Yeah, I mean, I've got oil back here that's mixed 50-50. And if I start thinking how much is in there and how much literal oil I'd have to drink, like literal, like oil.
A gallon of oil.
It's
That's
a
like
lot.
a couple of mason jars, right?
It's a lot. I think it's close to a pound. I did the math one time. I was just like, literally, how much would I have to like drink of my own dabs to, you know what I mean, like make this work? But surprisingly, CBD is actually more toxic than that, coming in at 0.98 grams per kilogram. Keep going down. Ibuprofen, formaldehyde. There we go. Psilocybin, 0.28 grams per kilogram.
So
if we're taking that same 150 pound, 68 kilogram individual, we'll take 68 and we'll multiply that by 0.28 and we get roughly 19 grams or about 19,000 milligrams.
Tanasi's talking about 200 to 250.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking, guys, about 80 times that to get the lethal dose.
There we go. That was back to where
you're going to have a bad trip before you kill yourself. Don't worry about it.
I think you would leave your body and you're just going to lay there in comatose.
Much like weed, man.
If you were to
we're starting to talk about like DMT levels, right? I mean, this is blast off.
If you were possibly to reach a 500 milligram dose of psilocybin, I'm going to say you're going to leave your body and you're going to be like comatose state for 4 or 3 hours at least.
Is there a point at which you don't come back mentally? I imagine that's different for everyone, but are we talking
maybe different
like
strokes for different folks. But I mean,
I've seen it though.
There's a dose that might take you a couple of days to bounce back from.
I heard the horror stories.
A lot of years.
Right. I've heard the horror story of people, and I think I actually heard it on DMT, but very similar. That where the hell was I going to go with that? God damn it! I think I lost my
overdosing LD50.
The blast. Oh no, the blast off. That they'll go somewhere, and I remember one specific story that he took, quite a few big hits. I'm assuming he was using a vape pen, and he left his body and he went and lived an entire lifetime, like a 30, 40, 50-year lifetime. Like he had kids, he had grandkids, he had aunts and uncles, he had a job, he had 401k, or whatever they were, like he had a fucking life. And then when he died, he was there with his vape pen in his hand.
I've heard of people living like 6 months and stuff. I don't know about like full lifetimes, but I believe it. I believe it, man.
I believe it too. I've heard some stories.
That's a whole different type.
That's scary. Yeah, that's scary.
That's scary. DMT is scary. I haven't done DMT in a very long time. Although
I'm
I have
gonna.
them all the time, it's one of the scariest things for me.
I think there's a few more psychedelics on this list I want to get through real quick, probably including DMT. I think it's on here. I don't remember, but just remember where like water and then like THC and psilocybin are, and then these are all the things that are more dangerous than that, right? So ketamine, caffeine, sodium nitrate used in cured meats, MDMA and ecstasy, obviously uranium, you would assume, cocaine,
Cocaine.
sodium thiopental used in lethal injection. Okay, so we're at that level now. Less than that is methamphetamine, sodium fluoride. That's right, capsaicin, vitamin D3, exposure to sunlight, heroin, LSD, arsenic, sodium cyanide.
Well, I thought LSD was one of those ones where it wasn't much of a, or was a very, very high threshold.
It's pretty low, but I don't think it takes much initially anyway. You know what I mean? We're blotting paper if that tells you anything.
Ratios, yeah.
But again, nicotine, right? So we're doing more than blotting tobacco, I guess, but there's plenty of nicotine in a cigarette. I forget how many milligrams. I think I used to know that. But
wow, right there, fucking next to fentanyl. Well, I guess it's on a different. This looks like it's going like this or something.
Yeah, well, that's true. So, it's all going downward, right? So this is less.
Okay, so it is just zigzag back.
Yeah, but now we're
right next to fucking fentanyl, nicotine and fentanyl. Look at that.
And but that's the thing. Now we're talking milligrams per kilogram, and I mean, what is
micrograms?
Is that even micrograms?
I think so.
It's not nanograms. That's way down here.
Well, I mean, we go microns. That would be a.
That
would be a U. That'd be a micron. Yeah.
So. Yeah, there you go. Nicotine, fentanyl, and sarin gas all next to each other, followed up by ricin, Agent Orange, box jellyfish, which I think is kind of cool because that's something in nature, right? Along there with the black widow spider, latrotoxin, and the batrachotoxin from the poison dart frog, and then from algae eaten by some sort of fish I can't pronounce, mytotoxin. Below that, polonium, diphtheria, sugar, tetanus, and then this is hilarious because we're talking 1 nanogram per kilogram is
oh my god,
botulinum toxin, which is Botox.
Yeah,
right.
The most poisonous substance on this planet, as far as we know, I guess, in terms of LD50.
Wow,
who figured out to inject that shit in their cheeks?
More power to them, I guess. I don't know. They're making probably a lot of money.
They do make a lot. That's every day.
Yeah. So yeah, I love sharing that list because it's wild to kind of compare a lot of those things on that list that are completely legal to things that are found in nature and not,
Reminds me of a lot of those solar system views where it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and showing you. Yeah, it's the same thing on a different scale. You're just getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, you're just getting to the scale you can't even imagine. Like, we talked, like, everyone knows, right? It's like a drop of fentanyl, like the size of a pinprick of fentanyl, and your skin is going to kill you. So think about all those things that came after that. It's just so much, just minor amount of substance that can.
How did we ever get to this point?
I always think about that with everything.
Reproduction, bro. That's the
number one. Let's go back to the first fucking person. That's always the interesting story. For me, go back to the first person. The first person that did it.
I remember we were talking about earlier. Healing dose. Remember we were talking about SSRIs, maybe schizophrenic. I don't know about that, but I was going to say, when I do the big doses, I feel like I'm like the John Coffey thing. I'm healing myself. Now, I don't know if I'm just doing maintenance and cure and like helping myself, or if you're able to like actually cure yourself if you're sick or have some type of illness, because there's a lot of shit going on. It's like rewiring brain neurons and shit's being rewired. Paul Stamets talks about it happening.
Adding pathways.
And his most recent one on Joe Rogan, I don't know if you guys caught that one yet, but out of 59 people in an end-of-life study who are doing big doses, I don't know how long the study's been going on, only 4 of them have died out of 59. I don't know if that goes on to it.
I've also
it hasn't been going on long enough, but
I watched that.
There's this healing thing that's happening in these big doses.
I watched that podcast actually too, but And it was a great podcast, by the way. If you haven't watched it, oh my God, go watch that one. But I know Paul's talk a lot about the benefits of microdosing too. And I almost think that he spoke higher and or more positively of the microdose than he has of the macrodose.
Right. He's been promoting this microdoses for a long time. For I know at least 5 or 6 years that he's been public with it. And it's a very low dose. Like everybody else is a 0.1, 0.2s or 0.3s with your microdoses. He's half a 0.1. He's 0.05. He's 50 milligrams
Wow. Wow.
on your whatever biomass is in it. But still, that's another part in your microdose, right? You eat a 0.1 of this microdose, you're eating more of a milligram, whatever, to a microgram or whatever ratio it is, to different ones do different things, right? That's what. But you do that with some lion's mane and some niacin.
Yeah, he does talk about mixing it. What does he call that? Is
Stammet stack or something.
it says stack? Yeah, yeah.
And he has an app that everybody's throwing data into of how it's
Love
helping
it. I love it.
with eye movement, rapid eye movement, being able to spot things on screen better, your eye coordination, how your eyes and fingers tap on things quick.
He was actually asking more non-users to submit information than
To get more data
users,
points.
whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what it's just doing for the body basically is just you're rebuilding pathways and neuroplasticity, where your neurons and your brain and everything's just repairing itself basically.
Tanasi, do you think that psilocybin should be treated like a multivitamin?
On the microdose level, yes.
Okay.
I've said that to people often. Like when you take your microdose, treat it like a vitamin in the morning, like some vitamin B.
That's kind of how I feel about microdoses, and I'm glad you made that discernment. How would you compare on a, in terms of like medical terminology? I use vitamins. That's not exactly highly medical, but in terms of like, that perspective, how would you describe or compare that healing dose? Like is that like surgery? Is that like, I know you said 10 years of therapy, but like, I mean, for real?
Yeah. Like you eat
10 years of therapy. Like we're talking
7 grams on an empty stomach. You are going to come out of that as if you did 1 hour twice a week for 10 years. You sitting in a room with someone dealing with your shit.
Now, if it goes wrong, is it going to require 10 years of therapy?
No, I don't think there is a wrong. Even the most shittiest, brutal, crying my eyes out, worst ones are always good. There isn't now that I know that you won't die. Know rule number 1, you are not going to die.
Is rule number 2, it's not going to last forever? Because I hope you say that next.
Yeah. That was the first thing I said after my reset dose of DMT. That's what I said. I was like, am I going to be like this forever?
Dude, yeah, I think that's the, I don't know what dose that is, but it's not a microdose. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, I think it was 2 levels there, man. Because if you're a soldier, you're doing some fucking, especially if the VA's throwing pills down your fucking throat to solve your shit. I think a microdose, I mean, that might help you get through your days and shit, and maybe
Let's go there, man. Because you got another veteran on this podcast with you right now, right below me here, Superior Buds, and I know personally some of my friends that are veterans that it's helped, and I know some of my best friends that were veterans that it could have helped. You know what I mean? It seems like we're regulatory wise on at least maybe federal scale, we're kind of opening the door to this to the VA first. Is that true? I mean, I know like on municipality scale, like here in Michigan, like Hazel Park, Ann Arbor, Detroit, I know I'm missing one. There's 4 or 5 municipalities that have decriminalized mushrooms, but like it takes like a medical breakthrough type like regulatory opening to really allow things like research to expand. It Everything I've heard about it is like VA oriented. Is it just me, or is that actually what they're doing?
That I'm not too sure although I'm involved with the VA very in what I do, but I'm gonna say no. From what the VA does is very fucking slow. And to get anything done, if you are one of the chosen ones, you're gonna be one of very few probably. Because if they were to do anything right now, I'd say they would do the MDMA. That's
Really?
the closest since root or
Were they
mark.
working with ketamine too, or
Yep. So
okay,
ketamine and MDMA since they
okay,
just legalized the MDMA, so I'm assuming that's right next. But they've been doing ketamine, I'm sure. But like getting like for me, if I was to ask for that, that's like no, like they're not going to just give that to me. I think you have to have some
more
be
like
in some
research
program
level?
maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
okay,
they're just going to give that out because I actually have 100%. So
nice.
and if anybody
Congratulations.
was to get options on this, it would be me, and I've never been
I
offered anything like that.
I just talked to my buddy about this the other day and about how he's still, same era as you, like 20, well, 15 years later, still working on the disability side of things, and I think the way he explained it is like they round up and like there's, they take your biggest disability and then they start kind of cutting it down from there the more you add on or whatever. But there's a certain point where you like got to get to 95 to round up to 100 or whatever. And like, I think that all of these guys probably deserve that. And I don't think it should be this challenging, but I think there should also be these options like what you're um, really researching and experiencing. That should be more readily available, and I'm glad to hear that it's the ketamine and the MDMA therapy are maybe opening up more, but like I don't know, it just seems like a pretty controllable, accessible point to do that from, and it seems like that might be the crew that, could use it or benefit from it most,
Dude,
seeing
yeah.
that it, like, I mean, what else could it treat? Here's my thing with cannabis, it's like, you could list all of these things that cannabis treats, and you start getting so far down this list, like, okay, is this some bullshit miracle drug, you know what I mean? But it kinda is, and it also seems like psilocybin could be that too, but it also seems like it really, hones in or is particularly helpful with things like PTSD and trauma. Is there a reason for that?
Say that again.
Is there a reason that psilocybin seems to be so effective with PTSD and trauma and those kind of past related experiences?
Yes, yes, yes. For me, man, it is a whole new fucking world for me. My life is I have a fucking purpose. It gives me a whole new outlook on everything because of what the mushrooms have showed me, man. So I know that they would help others as well and show them. But also that's where we have to teach people, right? Because like what you're saying, the VA do, man, they might be pulling some teeth if you're trying. You'll wait forever to do that. So like, let's grow your own, like you do your weed. Grow your own medicines, meds for the masses, right? You can have it forever if you know how to do it, and then sit here. We talk back and forth. Ask me. I mean, hit me up on sacred3mushrooms at gmail.com, Instagram. I'll answer. Don't even have to buy nothing, dude. If you got fucking dosing questions, growing questions, I'm answering emails all day, every day. I just want to share the knowledge because I feel that's where we're going to get ahead with this, right? Is because you just having a bag of mushrooms and then giving them out to your friends and half of them having a bad time isn't the right way. But if you actually understand what percentage, about what you're growing, what milligram of psilocybin is in them, how much you're actually giving them, all that plays a part. And I hate to see it abused for someone to have a bad time. To This scares them to never want to touch it again.
But I mean, it's a tall order to ask someone to jump in at 5 grams, dude. Like, I think you're asking for a lot of people to have a bad
I think
time
that's
with that.
something. Listening to me talk, maybe other people talk about this too. It's a conversation back and forth about something you looked forward to, right? It's not just, oh, I'm just going to fucking give me 5 grams and smash it. No, but maybe have a little bit more preparation to it. Like one of our buddies, we were doing it back, and me and his girlfriend were doing big doses for 6 months before he took his first 5 grams. And he just would listen to us talk, and we would all talk back and forth about what's going on. So, like maybe you first hear about microdosing, say, so maybe you've been doing microdosing for about 8 months. Now you've heard someone talk about a heroic dose. Okay, so now you're going to start thinking about maybe about a heroic dose and start diving deeper into that, listen to more people talk, how to do it. Maybe you got somebody that wants to be there for you while you do it. And then it expands from there, right? And then a year after you've heard about mushrooms, you've actually started a big dose. Like it took a process, right? Just wasn't something that you just jumped into. I don't think that won't be a lot. I mean, you'll have your wild guns, right? Crazy people. Yeah, let's just do 5 grams. But then you got some people that take it more, methodically, slowly. It takes them a while to do it, really dedicate, because it is hard work, right? It's not easy, or else everybody be doing it, right? You can fast. First, you have to try to get off your medications if you're on medications. Unless you want to try it with them, by all means, do whatever. But to fast for 24 hours, to consume the mushrooms, and then to just lay in the bed and have the medicine work on you, and you not jump up and like run around the house and like.
Yeah, that sounds like a commitment. I mean, that sounds like
another
definitely
dedication, right?
I think that's the point he's trying to make, man. It's like that's why some people call it a heroic dose, because it gives it a little bit more of that like oomph behind the meaning, you know what I mean? But I do think healing dose is just as accurate. But it's almost like a sacrament that you have to prepare for, because it's something you're going into with intention. You have to have understanding behind it. And it's not something that if you're just offered a handful of mushrooms at a party, it's probably not something you should take, because you probably are going to have that bad trip.
And I'm doing big doses about every 3 months. There's going to be people who do one big dose, and that's all they'll ever need. They've saw the light. They've saw something that they've right. changed their thought process for sure. They probably will never do it again. But then there's might be somebody like, okay, maybe every 3 years you do it. Right now, to be explorational and kind of dive deep into what these medicines are really doing across the board, I'm doing it about every 3 months.
Do you see and or experience and or visit and or whatever you want to call it the same thing every time?
Never. It's not been the same twice.
Never. Damn.
I've never had a conversation with an entity.
Really?
I've been to the brink of separation of where I've come out of my body, but I was suspended in the room and I wasn't able to leave the room. But I was separated from body very, very briefly and felt like I
couldn't leave sight. Like, were you always kind of within view of your body?
It was more like my third eye was open and you could just see everything. Like, it's hard to describe.
I know.
You're seeing everything at once. And all the way, imagine a Google, like a little Google video for Google Maps.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Zooming in on different things, and like it goes all the way down to things in a room, and their room's a toy and toys, and you can kind of see everything because you're looking with your third eye. That's open.
That was more than I thought.
but your third eye is seeing more than what's just in the room, right?
Right.
Okay.
The visuals, and it's very DMT for me. So when you're breaking down compounds on chemistry and just going through the next one in order down the list.
That's where I was getting at. Is it seems like it's
and psilocybin. are right next door to each other. There is no compound in between them. It is, if you looked at the molecule, it's literally just one little fucking hydrogen.
Like extra
or
hydrogen. Yeah, it's always a hydrogen or a carbon.
It's just one of those that's different to make it psilocin or psilocybin or DMT. But so when I do the psilocybin, a lot of times the visuals are very similar to the DMT, where you got sacred geometry and patterns. I think a lot of it's body, though. A lot of it's physical, where a lot of deep breathing, and in those breaths, energy's being cleansed. You're cleansing your body of energies that are negative or whatever you want to call them. I think that's, and I guess, let's see what else. The thought process. So we live our days grinding, doing the same shit over and over, and some things that we are doing we know are hurting our bodies or killing us slowly, but we don't pay no mind to it. We're just in our own little rut. I call it a rut. You're just fucking grinding that rut all day long. Then you take 5-7 gram dose of mushrooms and you have your intentions in play. Well, why am I angry? Why am I fucking smoking all this weed? Why do I do whatever fucking drugs or whatever the fuck you do? And you have those things come up in the trip. I feel like the mushroom solves them for you after dealing with them for a minute, and it pulls you out of the rut so that you're able to see fully and say, okay, I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing this wrong. Like, this is how I stay out of that rut. And then you come out of your trip and you've been showed the light and like how you can change some things, but then you have to like put in more work to keep that from happening again, right?
It's you've said that before, or especially early on in this podcast, about how you have to put in the work after the fact. And I think that's important to stress, because I kind of brought up how cannabis can pass as like a cure-all medicine, but it doesn't really necessarily cure things. It's like it helps that process, but it's not like you take a drop of RSO and you drop it on a tumor and the tumor goes away. You know what I mean? It's not that simple. For something like psilocybin, it seems more like it's not there to heal physically like cannabis might. Like cannabis might physically heal, whereas psilocybin seems more to mentally heal. Would you agree with that sentiment?
I feel there's a physical element on the big doses. I
Okay.
do. When
In what way?
in the way that on a 10 gram dose of the old dirties, I felt like my DNA as a human on earth was connected to the universe and it was just running through me. And this is where this is all in my head, dude. I could be fucking just nuts, but this is where the feeling I get from that feeling that connected to the universe, it's like it's healing my body. And if I was to have anything wrong with me, like an illness, I feel like it would be working on it. Now, say you got stage 3, stage 4 cancer, that probably isn't going to fucking heal or get rid of your stage 4 cancer. But maybe it's doing more maintenance to my body. And if I did big doses occasionally, I feel like there's some type of healing element to this.
I will say that mentally and physically absolutely are connected. You know what I mean? So if you can heal one side or the other, you're probably going to help heal the other, because I think they do work in tandem. That being said, I wonder if like making like one of the most, I think, effective medicinally effective products I make as a single source, craft grower, is a topical. It's something that I can rub on my skin, and it's got a lot of other great ingredients that like work in tandem with it, that that might have some skin healing properties or some other things like that. But I think the cannabis itself is an a great medicine, and to be able to apply that topically is just another way to kind of target the way you utilize it. I wonder if, like we talked about, processing and maybe extracting or um, concentrating psilocybin and putting it in a similar form of application would work in a similar physical way, rather than just kind of targeting the mental
I'd be
aspect.
curious in a topical to rub on your hands for
Mhm.
arthritis,
Right.
knuckles,
I
and
feel like
whatnot.
there's probably a list, man. There's probably a list, and I think we're too early on and young in the research, to even have any kind of concept of what it might provide. But it's like one of those things where it's like there's a reason it exists, is a reason it's available as a plant. Like, it's been put on this earth and utilized by humans for too long to pretend like it's just something we can make illegal.
Right. Can't contain it. Shouldn't contain it, man. It's too magical, truly.
Now, you've talked about terpenes a little bit, and how some people are doing some testing on that. But what are the reasons people are growing specific strains of mushrooms they're growing right now? And I refer back to penis envy because it's a very popular one here in Michigan right now. But is
Good
it
question.
one of those things that it's like are we growing for volume? Are we growing for bag appeal? Are we growing for potency? How's that mushroom game even work?
That's what the beauty of this forefront of this new wave, right, that we're surfing out here. And I think everybody's growing for their own reasons. There's a shit ton of people breeding and like making their own new mushrooms. I'm not really into the old breeding and stuff. I'm into just keeping a nice stock of good mushrooms around so that my I'm not going to start breeding and doing a bunch of crazy stuff. I feel like that's very time consuming, and there's a shit ton of other people who are probably better at it than me. I want to come down to where I grow the mushroom, I have it tested at the test results, and then say I got this mushroom, I grew it, the penis envy 10 times, I got 10 test results. The averages are going to be about right here, right? Then I can say that if you use the Sacred 3 kits, you're using the same substrate, all that, you're pretty much going to have the same potency on the same genetics. Now, now that you have the mushroom and about the right potency, now we can actually talk about what you're consuming when you eat that mushroom, right?
It's consistency.
Right, because that's what a lot of people would just give you a bag of mushrooms. Most of them probably don't even know the name of the mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really know. Again, you're just mystery eating mushroom or compounds. You don't really know what you're consuming. So I like to make that more of my forte, I guess, than having a whole bunch of wild ass fucking varieties. I mean, and we got 27 or so, and a couple more probably coming down the chute. But I say about 30, 40 strains is good to play around with. And then
Yeah.
I'm more about let's get these grown, let's test them, and then show people about, okay, golden teachers are about this percentage. So that when you do, because the worst thing for me, dude, is like you listen to me and we talk about 8 grams, and then you go and try to eat like golden teachers or some Cambodians, you're possibly just going to be tripping balls because you didn't hit that threshold of the compounds, and that's what we don't want. I don't want people to just be tripping balls because if you don't know what the breakthrough
See, that's
is.
where I was confused earlier. Is like I thought you wanted to be tripping balls.
I feel like tripping balls is different than the breakthrough. The
Okay.
breakthrough is spiritual, and anything up until that point, I feel is just scary nowadays. I've ate 3-4 grams shit ton, growing up, but now that I know what's beyond the door, I want to always hit that door and get this work done because I feel like I have a lot of work still to do.
Interesting. Well, I know whenever I have any kind of question regarding this, I'm
Yeah,
always
I
texting
mean,
you. We're
I'm
always
more than
talking
happy.
about it.
I'm more happy to come there and sit with you.
Yeah, we've talked about this
Yeah, we can
before, and
do
it's
it.
going to have to be a continual conversation because I'm sure it will inevitably happen. But we need to make sure it's the right time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You just gotta make that jump, you know. It's like I tell people it's like jumping off the bluff, right? You just gotta go. You just gotta do it.
Well, we're probably going to get in and do some elk hunting this year, so that'll be
Hopefully
fun
it'll be last year was a buzzkill with the fires out there.
yeah.
Pretty sure I slept in a field of contaminated fire retardant.
Oh, yeah.
I was a little bit sick after that stay in those woods.
I can understand that too.
I was like, something's not right because I had never seen so many berries. There were berry bushes everywhere.
Really?
And I'm like, usually animals have ate all these. And then after staying there a night, I was like, this shit's contaminated. They've dropped some fucking fire retardant stuff on all this vegetation, and I'm sleeping in it.
Oh, wow.
That's why the animals didn't eat none of the berries.
Makes sense.
Glad you brought that up. Guess what I got back today?
Oh, whoa.
Nice.
Is that a Michigan buck there?
Not one.
That was the picture I think we saw, right?
Yep. There we go.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Those
Very
are
nice.
nice mounts too.
Yeah, man. Taxidermist did a great job. Pretty stoked about that.
I remember back to hearing when they used to use, and maybe they still do, beetles to clean those things.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Eat everything right off it.
Mm-hmm.
Clean them right
Honestly,
up.
that's what my dad taught me. He taught me to if you just have like the so you just cut off the skull, right, and you're just keeping the antlers, and you skin off the rest of it, just hang it up, and flies will land some maggots in there. Maggots will take care of it, and there you go.
Just hang it in a tree. Some.
Yep.
Damn.
Preferably, probably not next to your back door.
Yeah, right. Right.
Just got to put it over the chicken coop, man, because then those maggots fall.
Yeah,
just
it's
free
free food. Yeah, I love those fly buckets. We
Oh man, there's no way Elbury would let me put one of those out there. Let's just put rotten meat in a bucket next to the house.
It's just
for the chicken.
it's an experiment for the kid. You know what I mean? It's just the new science class. Starts at 4 p.m. every day and ends with feeding chickens. Your semester project is cleaning the chicken coop.
So Tanasi, you consume cannabis, or you still grow? You used to grow.
I don't. I haven't grown in probably over a year. I would if I had the space. Mushrooms took up the entire garage.
I was gonna say when you said like 30 or 40 different ones, how much space do you have dedicated for your mushrooms?
Oh man, there's a 20 by 20 garage, 2-bay garage, and a bedroom, I guess.
Oh shit, and the bedroom. I know that feeling.
Yep, it just starts to take over.
That's kind of what's happened. Yeah, I could use a warehouse or a little storage shed built out back.
So it really isn't a matter of square footage. It's one of those things where, like, if you want to keep genetics, you just kind of need the space. Like, what causes you to take up more, maybe power, space? You know,
Actually, most of the space is inventory for the mushroom grow kits.
Okay.
Boxes and like grains and jars.
So growing itself really doesn't take up a whole lot of space then.
Yeah, dude. So let's see, about 2% of the costs it does to take to grow weed, you can do the same for mushrooms. Because take that wall behind you, right? You can stack 1, 2, 3, at least 4 or 5 totes across, and do that 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 times down that wall on the back, and all those
we got
totes
16
there.
totes.
About 2 to 3 totes, you're getting a pound on your first flush. So that entire wall right there could produce somebody's 4K system, probably like a 4K lighting, HPS.
That's a lot of mushrooms.
I don't know if that's super equivalent, but I'm just saying you can grow.
That's nonetheless.
That math live.
That's a lot of mushrooms.
Like, the price point, right? The weed doesn't make money. You're lucky to get $150 for a bag of good flowers, but a good bag of mushrooms could still get you $150. Sure.
So that was a fun thing that happened here in Michigan last year. Is a lot of the people that have been doing mushrooms for a little while started getting real upset because everyone started doing mushrooms and found out how easy it was to do, and it kind of tanked their business plan, just like what happened in the cannabis industry over the last few years.
Oh, it'll get so weed's already saturated, so mushrooms are just right there because it's too easy to grow. Everybody's doing it. So, and that's the best part I like because give them away. Just give them away.
Everyone should be able to do it.
Yeah, just give them away. Yeah, grow your own. Away. Is that what he's talking about? Grow your own?
He said I give it away to sick people as fast as I can grow it. Never been happier.
Yes. Share the knowledge, man. That's all it's about for me. Share the knowledge.
Well, like I said, you just make it so simple with the Sacred 3. I was literally talking with another parent on the playground today, and we were there for a couple hours, and it came up a conversation if I happen to know of anybody that had knew or whatever about any mushrooms, and I said, yeah, actually I do.
Yes, because that's the easy part, right? Teaching people how to use them, I think's the challenging part.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I would agree with that because, yeah, absolutely.
I think everything we know about mushrooms, we don't know shit. We don't know shit.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's such a daunting experience. Like, I think probably 7 out of 10 potential customers of yours probably have that thing sitting in their cart and they just don't click that buy button because they're too afraid of what they might experience on the growing side of things. If you don't grow things for a living, you know what I mean? If you're not like actively growing your own food or just doing some sort of green thumb activity, like that's a whole new world to jump into, especially growing mushrooms. So this thing that you're too scared to pick in nature, and I'm going to grow it in my own home. Like, okay, but you have made it simple enough. And, with the spore options and things, what you're going to get. And I think it's one of those things where it's not like running a closed loop system for the first time, or even really probably a wash bag system. It's probably more or less just like growing some peppers, right? Like, what would you compare it to? It seems like it's
growing some tomatoes, growing some peppers, man.
Okay.
Honestly,
I think a lot of people, like you're saying, like, oh, I'm too scared. I have to be so sterile. Everybody's telling me I got to be so sterile. It's like, man, I'm teaching you how to do it in my kitchen with 6 dogs that run in and out this dog yard.
There you go.
You can grow them, trust me. But that's just teaching people, right?
Yeah,
it's
just
definitely
like
come a long way.
Education. Yeah.
And it's much easier teaching them to grow mushrooms than teaching them to grow weed.
Where are speaking of learning how to do this, where other than like your website, which we'll definitely plug one more time before we go here, but where are some good directions to go in terms of maybe resources on educating ourselves on going down this path of growing mushrooms, propagating psilocybin, consuming it as a healing thing, like all those things? Where can we go to learn more?
For me, to hear from me, it's going to be on the QR code or on Instagram. It's a link tree that's in the profile bio. If you buy anything from Sacred 3, I have QR codes all in the box on multiple cards. And that QR code gets you to the link tree. Link trees get you to instruction videos. It gets you to, if you check out Psychonauts TV on YouTube. Last year, I did a shit ton of shows with them about how to growing questions, and I'm showing kits. We're doing all types of just learning how to grow, and a whole bunch of different videos and podcasts like this. But that's pretty much it right there. I had a partner with us that was going to start a podcast. and we're going to start talking more about scientifics of it and everything. But that partnership is not going to be no longer. So maybe I end up doing something on
You
Sacred
should
Tree.
still start a podcast. Start your own podcast. This is the type of information that needs to be shared right now, because I'm telling you, man, I'm celebrating 10 years on YouTube this year, as of like this month practically, or at least coming up here. And um Pedro will attest to this. The channel growth at that in that era was well, the consumers were thirsty, put it that way.
Yeah, very.
And I think there's again, it's like the cannabis market is so saturated where you can kind of find it anywhere. You know what I mean? You don't have to really go looking too hard for it anymore. So there's a lot of it out there, and you could go down a lot of different rabbit holes. But with the mushroom stuff, man, it just doesn't seem to really be in the forefront yet. And maybe it's just I think it's just always comes back to a lack of education. So let's yeah, man, get it going. Fire it up.
So excuse me. On YouTube, man, I have a lot of, maybe a podcast format is better for YouTube, but I can teach you how to grow pink oyster mushrooms, and every damn video YouTube will take it and give me a strike. And I've battled them. I've just shot the camera where I'm going over test results and explaining those. They've taken down all those videos. So I'm having a hard time with YouTube. But
Maybe
if you
like
do watch the
Patreon or
Sacred
something.
Three, if you do watch Sacred Three Mushrooms channel, if I do start a podcast, I'm gonna start streaming from there, like how you guys are streaming from multiple platforms. But Rumble is my go-to. If you go to Spore Fruit Spirit on Rumble, that's a channel I started where I want to push everybody to go to, because Rumble won't take down any of my videos. They're allowing it. So if I'm sitting there showing you test results and the mushrooms and going into much great detail, I don't want. I'll post it on and stream to YouTube and stuff and other platforms, but I'm guaranteed they're going to take that shit down. So I want everybody to go to that.
Have you tried X?
I have not been on X.
Sounds like, have you tried this drug?
I haven't been on X, no.
They seem to be pretty lenient. I mean, we stream right now. All three of us, I believe, are streaming. Yeah, we're all streaming to our X channels.
Really?
Or at
They're
least,
not-
I guess it's
okay.
Superior and I.
I was like, I don't
Does
think I
YouTube,
am.
No,
does
I
YouTube
was
take
looking
your
at Twitch.
videos?
I mean, yeah, I haven't been able to monetize my YouTube channel in a long time. Which, it is what it is. And every YouTube video I post, including these podcasts, get put behind the, not safe for work wall, or the 18+ wall, or whatever you want to call it. So if you're not like logged in, you can't even find my videos. But I got 16,500 subscribers, and that was like something to be said for like back in 2012 or 14 or whatever. But yeah, now it's just like we're basically completely shadow banned or blacklisted or whatever it is. So it just is what it is. But it's getting the information out there. That's why we're trying to multi-stream and multicast, and getting it on YouTube, getting it on Twitch, getting it on X, posting it up after the show on Spotify and all the other, and just kind of feeding it out from there. Yeah, it's about just getting the information out there. And so fuck monetization. Like, it's about having the discussions. And if we can start with one like this tonight, Tanasi, this has been fantastic, man. A lot of information for everybody.
It was great having you, man.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a 2-hour show too, because I've been doing a lot of 1-hour shows, and it's hard to really get the picture out there in an hour. So
Yeah,
it's nice to be able to talk a little more about, especially what we're trying to do, right, with the compounds and testing and different element here.
well, let's pick it up in a couple weeks or a couple months, and kind of see if the landscape has changed, if there's been any new research or anything that we've maybe work terpenes into there or something. We'll see. But like Superior Bud said, Tanasi, it was great having you tonight, man. I appreciate the conversation and all the information and education you've provided to us and our viewers, and you're welcome anytime, man. Cheers.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you,
man.
brother.
Appreciate it.